Good morning, YouTube. All right, this week I got a honeydew for you. I woke up, my wife's been bugging me about gas dryer, which is an LG steam dryer DLGX7188WM. She says it doesn't dry very good anymore. It takes longer to dry, and then I've noticed that it just sounds like there's a bunch of shoes in it whenever you dry anything. So something's not right. I jumped online on Amazon. I found this little kit which comes with 4 new rollers, a belt tensioner, and a new belt for $31.99. I'll leave a link in the description. Don't know if you guys caught that, but that was a dead mouse in there, which doesn't surprise me because when we first moved in, I found 3 dead mice right here, or maybe it was in the exhaust line. Obviously the house had been sitting for a little while, so it didn't surprise me too much. I went ahead and put construction cloth over the output vent, but apparently I didn't do it well enough because another dead mouse in here, which is disgusting. So here's the output vent, which I don't know how a mouse could have got in there because that's completely blocked. All right, the next step here is to remove these back screws, and it's not these top 3 that are exposed, it's these bottom ones that are kind of hidden under here. So one, it looks like I'm missing one right there, and there's one over here. So you may or may not have that. Who knows, maybe someone took this apart before. I didn't buy it new. It came with the house. So then you can just yank this thing back and lift it up and off, which will expose the drum and some of the electronics inside. All right, this is the view you get once you take that top off. I'm gonna clean up, I'm gonna vacuum up some of this stuff before I move on. I don't want any of this dropping down further in there where it might make it harder to get it later. I just like to clean as I go, that's how I do things, but to each their own. So the next step is to get this tray that I don't even know what it does, to be honest with you. To get this out, we have to pull up on this tab in here. So if you just yank up on it, the thing will slide out, and you can just toss this to the side. Then there are 2 Phillips head screws, one here, one here. We'll go ahead and pull those out, if I can find them. There we go, over here. All right, there's one little screw right here that's holding this front cover on, supposedly, according to the directions. So we'll take that guy out. And then supposedly this lifts out of here. I don't know if that's true or not, though, to be honest with you. I think they're tricking me. Something about lifting up and out. Well, there seems to be these little snaps. I finally got it. Actually didn't take that long, but I did break one of these things at least. There's these little plastic snaps, and one side goes over this rail and one guy's side goes through it and hooks on. So you got to kind of be careful about that and try not to break them. Right now we got to disconnect all these wires, take a picture so you fit them in right when you're done, and then we can get this control panel off. The way these connectors work, nearly all of them, there's a little locking mechanism on the front here, and you push that in and the thing will pop off. So here's the control panel off. You can see where I broke my, no, you can't see. You can see where I broke my little tab. I think we'll be able to super glue that back on, no problem, along with this one as well. So no worries there, just be careful. Don't rush it like me. Next step is removing this whole assembly right here. It's 2 screws, one here, don't drop it, and one here. Don't drop that one either. And then I'm assuming we're gonna have to disconnect these connectors and this hose, and this thing should slide back and out. We'll see. there's a ground wire right there on this stanchion. Let's see how this thing wants to go. If we take this wire out, I disconnect this and disconnect that ground wire. There we go. Now, hopefully, this whole assembly comes out. All right, there you go. I think I had to look at the instructions a couple times, but I think you take the door off here. So let's do that. Don't drop it. All right, those are two screws right there. And then they say these two lower ones. Okay. Those two. And then they say the 4 up here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This one looks like it's almost stripped, so I wonder if somebody had this apart before. One more. And then maybe this will come off. You have to be careful of the door switch up here, which pops out. And there's the front cover. We'll set it to the side. There is tons of dog hair in here. I'm surprised I haven't just caught on fire and blown up. Jeez. See this dust right? I don't know if you guys can see that. See all that dust? That's not supposed to be there. That's likely from a worn out part. And I bet we'll find out real quick what the problem, why that, all this looks like almost, something from a worn out part, I can tell you that. Okay, so I took the 2 screws, one here and one here from this assembly. This is where the dust or lint filter goes. This bad boy goes in here with a rip in it right there. I just noticed that. That's probably half our frickin' problem right there. Anyways, so I'm kind of curious to see what'll be in here. Probably a bunch of crap. I hope you guys can see that. So there's a good amount of crap in there. It's definitely time to clean this out. I think this is one reason, you know, it's important to have this lint filter correctly in here. And part of the problem is obviously that rip right there. But I think the other part of the problem, do I have that in right? How does that son of a bitch go in there? No, it was right. The other part of the problem is, see this gasket right here on this? Looks like it's toast. So it's not sealing completely either. So there's a rip in it and it's not sealing completely. So that's another thing we'll have to fix. And then obviously clean this thing out. Here's our little motor, and you can see, well, you guys can't see, but the drum moves with this motor. So it's probably on the same pulley. I think the next step is going to be removing this front cover right here, this whole front assembly, to get that all removed. And then the drum should be accessible, at least the wheels for the drum should be accessible. We went ahead and removed the cover to this blower motor right here. Just 2 screws, one on the top. Just vacuuming out all this lint that clearly was not trapped by the lint filter. And then just trying to clean this up. Look at that. Oh, you guys probably can't even see that. Oh, it's like a It's like a freaking slot machine over here. Look at all that change we got. All right. I love shop facts. While not required to replace these rollers, at least I don't think so, I would recommend pulling off this plastic place where the filter goes, the screen, lint screen goes, because as you can see, I mean, there's a lot of crap that gets trapped in between the frame here and that filter. So it's 1, 2, 3 screws on the inside. They screw in this way. And you pull it out and then you can clean all that crap out. So I haven't even taken this front piece off, which will give us access to the drum and the rollers, but you can see these 2 large bolts right here, or nuts. Those are part of those rollers, and just reaching up under here to feel the roller, I don't know if you guys can see this, but it's loose. It's completely loose. So that's obviously one of the issues. I don't know if it became loose or the bearing died. I suspect the bearing died because all that dust that we had right here that I mentioned earlier, that's that bearing. It's just gone. Probably some rubber too. Now there's another roller right here that feels fairly solid. I don't think it's disintegrated yet, but we'll replace it either way. All right, it's time to take this front panel cover off. To do that, I think we're gonna have to pull this, which is the light. So if your bulb's not working, now's the time to replace it. Just throw that up there. The other thing we need to replace is down here. You guys can't see it. Down here, this little connector right here, which I believe is for either a temperature sensor, which goes right here, or maybe a humidity sensor. So anyways, we'll pop that off. It just has that little tab, locking tab. And then we'll grab our thing and we're just gonna do 4 screws, 1 at each corner. One up here, 1 over here, and 1 down here somewhere. All right. Then, if I did everything correctly, this thing's kind of locked in place by these tabs, so it should kind of lift and pull out. This side's not lifting. Kind of hangs on there. There we go. There's a, let me see if I can show it to you guys. Yeah, right up here, this wire harness is pinched in here, so I got to get that thing off. Some pliers will do it usually. And sure enough, just as I thought, this front roller is absolutely toast. The bearing is gone. This one doesn't seem to be too bad. We'll replace it either way, but this one is junk. So that at least was one reason why it sounded like there was a bunch of marbles in here whenever you dried anything. All right, so we got to get this drum out, this whole entire drum assembly, because there's 2 rollers, at least 2 rollers in the back portion. If I've taken it this far, I might as well replace those. Not to mention, this is a propane dryer, and this is the burner right here. And I know what you're all saying, like, this was a fire waiting to happen, if you ask me. I mean, the amount of lint on this thing and the hair and everything right here, this is, I'm assuming this is where the flame comes out. So I'm gonna clean this whole thing out. But to get this off, I'm gonna try to show this to you by getting back here. There's the idler pulley. The belt goes all the way around this drum. So in order to get this drum out, we need to take tension off this idler pulley, which is done by pushing that roller pulley down and then getting the belt off of it. And then this whole thing should be able to pull on out. How we're gonna get the belt back on, that's a problem for later. Got the idler pulley, or the belt off the idler pulley. Wasn't actually that hard. Thought it was gonna be harder. But to get this drum out, I'm gonna have to at least loosen or take off this bolt, this one, and then the same on this side, because due to the lip on this thing, it doesn't pull out. So I just need to get that kind of out of the way, and then I can pull this whole drum out. Ta-da! hopefully this isn't what the inside of your dryer looks like. It's shameful. It's just shameful. So we're gonna completely clean this all out. We're gonna replace this roller, which doesn't feel too bad. And this roller, they don't spin very easily. So, well, they're not broke like the other one. I think they could be replaced. And then we're just gonna clean all this crap out. The kit that I had has a new idler, so we'll put that in there. We're just gonna get this all cleaned up. So I was just doing a kind of quick vacuuming, and I found this extra little screw sitting over there in that corner. That definitely wasn't for me. I haven't lost any screws yet, knock on wood. But I was looking down into this heat tube, and you guys cannot see it. Hold on, let me see if I can get a light. All right. Get a light down in there. You see that? Can you guys see that? That little thing at the very end of the tube. It's an open wrench. Somebody frickin' dropped an open wrench down in here. I mean, keep in mind, I didn't buy this thing new. This came with my house. So whoever dropped an open wrench down in here, congratulations, we found it. And there you go, a number 10 open wrench inside my dryer. All right, I mentioned it before, we might as well replace these back rollers. Another thing though is if you look at, here's one of the new rollers, and you can see how this thing spins just real nice and freely. You try that on these, no go. And it's probably because they're all, you know, gooked up with all this hair and, you know, stuff like that. You know, it's definitely not my hair. I got short hair, so I'm blaming this one on the wife. So anyways, we're going to replace these as well, which means we got to take this back plate off to access the nuts for these dang things. I believe it shouldn't be too hard. There's a couple screws that go through here. I think that's all we got to do. They're accessed from the back panel. Pop those off. This whole thing should fall forward. We can replace these wheels, these rollers, stick it back on. There is the new rollers on. Pretty simple. There's a nut on one side with a washer, and this side is keyed or hexagonal, whatever. Leave a comment. Anyways, I just used 2 open wrenches, or 2 crescent wrenches rather, and just tighten them up. Make sure you get them real tight. You don't want them to come loose. The next thing to replace is this idler pulley. It's pretty simple. There's a bolt on the back. You unscrew that one, and then the new one goes in. Just make sure you get the orientation right with the spring, and shouldn't be too hard. The only thing I'll mention on this idler pulley is there's a little switch at the back side here, right there. And probably what that does is it lets the dryer know if the belt snapped, and then it won't run, because if that switch right here is triggered, then there's no tension on the belt. So normally the belt would be, this idler would be way up here, and that switch would be open. So if that switch ever closes, then it tells the dryer that the belt's broken. So just make sure that's all aligned properly. It's honestly, I don't think you can do it wrong. So, but I thought I'd mention it. So I'm putting the drum back in. I put the new belt, kind of centered it where it was on the drum, and just kind of push that in there. It's not going to sit right until, you know, the front gets on. But we do got to hook up the belt and the idler pulley back up. Just make sure that you're on the new rollers correctly, which I am, and then make sure the belt's the right way. The motor has, it's keyed. So there's 3 grooves in it. It's a grooved belt. So make sure that's correct as well. And we'll hook up the new belt, or the new idler pulley. Get this back in here so it's not gonna fall or anything on me. Something like that. And then we can hook this belt up. Probably gonna be the hardest thing of the whole damn project. One thing to just keep in mind is to make sure this belt gets centered. On mine, it wasn't terribly difficult to see where the belt was because it's so dusty. There was no dust where it is. But you have these little screws here, so the belt could possibly get hung up on one of these bolts. But it should be basically in the middle. It should be grooved into your motor below, and then your idler arm just comes all the way forward and pushes it back. Like I said, I'll leave a link to the instruction manual which shows the orientation of the belt in it in the description. Now that we got the drum back in, we can reattach this top portion right here. Keep in mind the screws for these, there's two short ones. I don't know if you can, there's two short ones and two long ones. The short ones go on the top, the long ones go through the side right here. So the next thing to put back on is this front plate, and to do that you kind of have to reach under and lift the drum so that it sits on the new rollers that you put in. And luckily they gave you these little tabs that kind of hold it in there so you don't have to screw it and hold it at the same time. And then now would be a good time, once you got that in place, is just to give your drum a nice kind of roll and just make sure that this belt is right in the middle. And like I said, it'll get it caught up on these screws, and you don't want that. So just make sure everything is moving correctly before you screw that down. Otherwise you'll be hating life because you have to unscrew these 4 bolts again and do it again. So if you've done it correctly and everything's aligned, you can see I got my screws in now. You should be able to spin this, and your bottom blower motor right there will spin, and everything should be smooth, not clunky. It's not gonna be easy, but it should be smooth, and that should spin down there if you got it on your motor correctly. If that doesn't spin or it's binding or something, pop it back off because you don't got it aligned. And the last thing you want to do is start this son of a bitch and not have that belt on the right way. It's going to cause all kinds of problems. So the other thing, don't forget, you need to hook up this wire, your sensor again, which goes to there. I'll do that when I get another hand. And then your wiring harness up here, this guy right here, will go down to this light. So that's how that wire harness should be routed. Right along here, this hose will go over here. There's a little wire holder here, and then there's this snap little ring right there. And then that light wire will go down through there and connect to this guy. So it's easy. It's easy, right? Next, we'll put this whole top assembly in. So the way this thing fits in here is you set it in here. There's 2 large grooves on the sides here. And if you just kind of tilt it at an angle and slide it forward, it'll pop down right where you need it to, which is right there. And there's 2 screws that go right here. Don't forget the 3rd screw, which is our ground, goes on this stanchion piece. So let's get that in. The coarse threaded are for the mounts. I thought they gotta be. That one just doesn't want to go in, I guess. That one's fine. Why doesn't this one want to go in? There we go. And then the fine threaded one is for the ground. If you mix them up, it probably doesn't matter, but you do need the ground. We'll go ahead and connect our wires here. Pretty straightforward. They're all color coded, black, white. Shouldn't be too hard to figure out. The hose, we'll go ahead and stick on like that. Grab our pliers and
cinch that up. That's for your steam. The wire goes into this little loom over here. That's good. There's little spots for this wire that go in all along here, so get that in there. That's good, that's good. We'll go ahead and pop on down to the bottom portion right here. Again, you should be able to spin this real easily and your drum moves at the same time. This is geared to make this easy, and this would be difficult. This little trim piece has to go on. Get this clean as you can, and then this goes on just like that. It's keyed at the bottom, and you have 2 screws that go in right here and here. Now we can fit this bad boy back on here. This slides up over that, and there's 2 screws, one right here and one right here. Next step is this front panel. There's little tabs at the bottom, little feet that this panel kind of slides into. Make sure, again, you've hooked up your sensor right here, the white wire, and your light. There's a top wire up here, right here. This goes into that's your door closure sensor. As you bring this up, it's right here. It plugs in. And then your 6 screws are up here, 4 at the top here, and 2 on the bottom right here. And the next step will be the door. Now the door goes on. It's just two screws. Probably easier to do it with it open, I'm hoping. Probably one of the harder things this whole project. Maybe not. Make sure this is a little bit tighter. Don't want your door falling off. Alright, make sure it closes, except the camera is in the way. There we go. Holy moly, it closes. Alright, one of the last things is obviously the control panel. It's kind of fiddly to get it in there. What I found is if you come in with the top kind of first, going down, and then slide in the bottom, it's keyed at the bottom, and then it'll sit down. There's 3 screws, one that goes behind this panel right here, and 2 up front at this drawer. So let's get those in, and we still got to hook up all the plugs, but that's easy. Like I said, they're all color coded, and keyed, so you shouldn't have too much trouble getting those in. There's only really one way they can go. So there's that one, and then we have these 2 over here. And one right here. This drawer can go in. It's got that lock right there. The yank up on it. I don't want to break it. A bunch of dirt in there. There we go. One thing goes in there like that. That's in. We got to hook up the plugs and put the top cover on. Get a shot at me putting the plugs in just in case you guys can't figure it out. We got one down here. Let's start there. Bam. Bam. Blue one. There is a small one right here. Where do these go? Oh, this one goes down in here. I'm probably blocking the camera with my head. This little blue one goes right here. This blue one right here. Make sure they click. This blue one and this white one. And that's it. Hopefully we didn't miss any, right? And then the last thing is to put the top on, which is over here. This one comes in like this. Bam. And then there's the 3 screws on the back side here. And we just got to hook it up. And here we are with it all back in place. It's all hooked back up. I cleaned out the pipe, cleaned out the vent outside. If you're uncomfortable hooking up gas or whatever, just call a licensed plumber, somebody to do it for you. I'm not uncomfortable doing that. I've done it many times. Just make sure I use soapy water on the fitting, make sure nothing's leaking, and the proper gas Teflon tape. So the big question is, how does it run? Let's find out. Nice and smooth. Doesn't sound like there's any marbles in there like it did before. And sounds like this is a successful honeydew. If you guys made it this far, thanks for watching. If you like these honeydew projects, let me know in the comments below. I got plenty of them, trust me. Just a side note, the filter that was broken, everything, I found on Amazon for $13.99. It'll be here tomorrow, 1-day shipping. So if you have that same problem, just hop on Amazon. I'll leave a link below to the one I ordered. And I hope you guys enjoy this video. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.